Let's call on one of those members of Congress, my old colleague Louie Gohmert, Republican of Texas, a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Louie, good morning. Thanks for calling in. And let me begin by this so-called expansion of rights. Is this amnesty pure and simple?
Absolutely, it's amnesty. They try to say, well, it's prosecutorial discretion. No, discretion is not when you give a blanket amnesty like he did to over 553,000 people. That's what U.S. Customs and Immigration Service own numbers have shown since this president started this program. Over 553,000 amnesties already. I mean, holy smokes, this guy truly is fundamentally transforming America, but not into anything that the framers and the founders ever dreamed. These are people who are being given amnesty, who will eventually be able to vote if they're not already, who have no idea what it takes to maintain a republic if you can keep it, madam. This is so critical what he is doing in the way of damaging this country. And if you want to say, well, gee, look where these folks came from, you know, we've got to give them amnesty, we've got to help them. Listen, there are so many children around the world that are worse off than those in Central America. And how unfair is it to the Mexicans? I don't know why this president is so extremely prejudiced against Mexicans. They said, no, if you're from Mexico, we'll turn you right around and send you right back. But if you're from Central America, nah, come on, we'll send you all over the United States. We'll let you stay. You think some of the people in Mexico aren't as afraid of the drug cartels as the people in Central America? I mean, this is a policy to transform America. It's not a policy to specifically help people. If it were, then it would be more consistent.
And Louis, moreover, plenty of those people from Mexico can say, hey, I'm from Nicaragua or I'm from Guatemala.
Oh,
they
sure.
don't have, so it's rife for fraud, the opportunities. Now, Politico has an article.
And that's a great point, JD, and it's worth reinforcing. When the people come, you know, I've been on the border and spent late nights, all nights nearly with Border Patrol, and as people come up, usually one in the group will have a Xerox piece of paper, but they'll admit they've been told, don't bring anything but this piece of paper. Take this piece of paper. And one guy had the wrong piece of paper. It said El Salvador, and so no, that's my piece of paper. Here's your piece of paper. Oh, here's my piece of paper. One said Honduras, one said El Salvador, and he got the wrong piece of paper. I mean, there's no identities that come with these folks. And they just come across, and then we're supposed to accept whatever they tell us without any further identification. That's bad news in and of itself.
Well, Louis, moving along, Politico features an article saying if President Obama goes through with these big unilateral moves he's promising on immigration, there may be no way to stop him. Do you agree with that assessment?
No, there's plenty of ways to stop him, but it does require extreme courage by the House of Representatives to stand up and say there is nothing else being funded for your White House until you stop this lawlessness. But that takes courage, you know, to stand up, because the mainstream media will not point out the fact that we're standing up to save the Constitution. They'll stand up and say, oh, you're just prejudiced, you don't really care about anything but politics. No, we care about saving the Constitution and the constitutional functions that this president has already run roughshod over. You know, the prior order that legalized over 553,000 people, he had said before, so we know this was a knowing, glaring unconstitutional action. He told one audience, no, I'd like to give amnesty, but I can't do it without Congress. Well, then later when Congress didn't do it, he said, okay, Congress won't do it, so I'm signing a new law. It didn't pass the House, didn't pass the Senate, but it passed my lips, so now it's the law. That's as unconstitutional as it gets, and we should have stopped him there, but it takes more courage to stand up, and way we're playing politics is when we don't stand up. We're afraid the voters may hold it against us. But I think if you stand up and do the right thing in the long run, that's better politically.
Now, I want to pursue what you're talking about, Louie, because your background before coming to Congress, you actually were a judge. Another guy who spent time as a judge serving in the Senate, Jeff Sessions of Alabama. And he's talking about, in essence, Congress creating its own legislative order to stop the president. Is it along the lines of what you're discussing, just a moratorium on any more spending by this president until he drops this notion of amnesty by decree?
Yeah, that's the power that the founders gave us, and Jeff is exactly right. And it's interesting, you know, some of us that have been judges before we came here. I mean, I left the bench because I wanted to change federal law, and I knew that it was unconstitutional for a judge to do it. So I left the bench in order to run for the legislature so that I could help make the laws. This guy left the legislature to go to the presidency, and he's legislating more now than he ever did in the Illinois Senate or in the U.S. Senate. He's not just voting president; he's actually making law by himself.
Louie, let's bring this thing back to the border in the couple of minutes we have left. Down in your state, your governor, Rick Perry, said Texas would be sending National Guardsmen to the border. What is the latest on the governor's order, and what are the Guardsmen doing there?
Well, as I understand it, they're not there yet, and that they will be coming soon. I love George W. Bush. You know, you and I served in the House together when he was president. But when he sent the National Guard down, actually, they didn't go to the border. They stayed back some 60, 100 miles away. And one I remember one getting a unit citation because they saw heavily armed drug smugglers coming near them, 60 miles from the border, radioed it in, and then fled their position, and they won a unit citation for excellence for following their orders.
Hey, there's another hard-to-believe thing. You mentioned the absurdity of that situation with guardsmen more as observers than guardsmen. This is something that happened Monday afternoon. Maybe you saw it while it was going on. The video shot by the Fox affiliate in Washington, D.C. Illegal immigrants picketing the White House Monday afternoon, calling on fellow immigrant rights advocacy groups to refuse to meet with the Obama administration until the president specifically includes illegals in any future meetings. What do you make of this? We've got less than a minute.
Well, they can't possibly be illegal because we're told all the illegals are in the shadows, and I didn't see any shadows on their faces. They were out there in the bright sunlight. So either illegals are not in the shadows like we're being told, or they are out in the open, and it's not like they're saying, oh, we can't possibly deport illegals. Well, when they come out and say, I'm illegal, I demand this, that, or the other, and say, okay, you are going to get the law that you demanded. The law is in place, and here, we need you to step right in here. We're taking you to our border. You are not allowed in this country. You've got to do things legally before you can demand legality.
Louie Gohmert, Republican congressman from Texas, a member of the House Judiciary Committee. We thank you very much for your time and your insights.
Thanks so much, J.D. Appreciate you, brother.